Good morning. What makes a successful man? And I guess I better be careful to be woke, as they say. What makes a successful person? But we're really exploring what makes a successful man. The answer is strong enough to explore his feelings, courageous enough to be compassionate, powerful enough to empower others, secure enough to make the world safe, and smart enough to change his mind. Dr. Kimmel is a sociologist, a member of the Stony Brook University in New York, and an author who has received international recognition for his work on men and masculinity. And that's one of the things that we are debating about with being politically correct, with being proper, and we're taking away the strength of individuals by saying that that there's no gender discrimination, there's no sexual orientation discrimination, there's no race discrimination, and things like that. And I understand that, and that is a good thing, but we also need to be able to recognize who we are in this world. There's much confusion today as to what defines a man, and never mind a successful one. Depending on who you speak to, a man is to be in touch with his feelings, but seriously and manly, whatever that means. What does manly mean? Express himself clearly and articulately, drink the right beer, have the 5 o'clock not shave every day. My shadow doesn't show up. Have the right car, have the right number of girls and the right girls on his arm. Have unlimited time, talent, and cash. Have you noticed that these successful men never really work? Or is secretive and mysterious? Ooh. And hunk, whatever that means. Is James Bond type, being like Sean Connery or Roger Moore or Timothy Dalton, Pierce Bronson, or that new guy, whoever he is. He's also to be like Homer Simpson, duh, or American Dad, Mr. Macho, Family Guy, or Dr. House. And if you look at what a woman needs to be successful, we still find the majority seem to need the right husband. You know, I don't know how that is really. My wife has the right husband. So she keeps telling me. You also need to have the right job, the career, pay, position. Oh, what are not really important to women. Her need is to be at home. Don't shoot me. This is just some stuff that I got off the net. And not that I really agree with that. Not every woman is happy at home. Not every woman is happy working. So we all have that defining place, and each person has to discover that for themselves. Either way, we as humans have been challenged to try to fit into roles that are not clearly defined, and they're even getting worse now, that crosses boundaries, no foundation, and are really, really confusing now. Top it all off, we're no longer to be gender specific in this new woke era. So what does God have to say about being a successful man or person? We are really talking about being a successful man, and there is a saying behind every successful man is a woman. And where I'm getting this from is Job 1, and it says, Job was a man who lived in Uz. He was honest inside and out, a man of his word who was totally devoted to God, hated evil with a passion. And God said to Satan, have you noticed my friend Job? There is no one quite like him, honest and true to his word, totally devoted to God and hating evil things. In this, we find that there are 3 characteristics marking a successful man. First one off is he hates evil. Evil lurks within men. Read any newspaper and we can see that the evil intent of men. They are the number one rapists, child molesters, serial killers, drug users, pushers, greed for money, advance at any cost to do at any cost anything to do with evil, there's usually a man behind it. For a man to be successful, he needs to hate the very thing he seems to love to do. We as humans took from God the ability to know good and evil. Genesis 3, where Eve was tempted by the devil or the serpent, and the serpent, or Eve tempted Adam. Ever since we ate from that particular tree, temptation to do evil has been with us. Isn't that funny? Eve was tempted by the snake because it would open her eyes to know the difference between good and evil. And when we found out what it was to be evil, we seemed to migrate to that position more than to being good. Not saying that we're all going to go out there and cheat and steal and kill and be reapers and plunderers and everything else like that. But our heart seems to be towards that way. That, if we have to be a little sneaky and a little underhanded or lie a little bit or cheat a little bit, we'll do that to advance. Romans 12:9 says, "Let love be without hypocrisy. Abhor what is evil and cling to what is good." We still have that ability to love what is good. Of our own power, I don't know if we can do it. Job, though, however, he says, not only did he hate evil, he hated it with a passion. In Psalm 26:5, David says, "I have hated the assembly of evildoers and will not sit with the wicked." So within us, we're also, because we know the difference between evil and good, we also try to be good. If we look around the world, there's a lot of people who do good things, even though they aren't powered by God, that they are doing it on their own. But they also have a tendency to lean the other way. Job was so aware of evil that he would even offer sacrifices for his kids, just in case they sinned unknowingly. You all know how parties and youth can get. You were young once, right? You never did a wrong thing. You obeyed mom and dad to the letter. You never snuck out for that little bit of cigarette or that smoking, or nobody ever shoplifted. But we all did get into trouble, even unknowingly. Sometimes we did things without really knowing what we did. And that's what Job understood, and he did this sacrifice, and he pleaded with God, "Please forgive them." And we do the same for our children too. We look out for them. We pray that they will not be tempted by evil. So there are a couple of characteristics help us to hate evil. Honest and true inside and out. Honest and true inside, and honest and true by his actions that people saw him do. Proverbs 19:1 says, "Better is the poor who walks in his integrity than the one who is perverse in his lips and is a fool." It is better to walk in your integrity. If you say that you're not a liar, then walk in that path. Don't lie, no matter what it costs you. If you're saying that you're not a thief, don't steal. Don't even take that pen from work. They've got a whole stack of them there with their name, and they're an advertising gimmick, and they say, "Here, give these out to the people," but they didn't say you could take them. Don't steal. Even those little things, or paper clips, or maybe even more, the petty cash. How we feel inside, what we think is right, or what we know is right, not what we think, what we know is right, is we should be doing that. And that's what Job did. What he knew inside was right, he did that on his outside also. When we think of a successful person, we think of those who have lived a good life. They don't seem to have any enemies or troubles. They are people who have treated all fairly in business and in personal life. They are the ones who treat everyone like the same, whether they're in church or out, and whether the person is a Christian or not. and it didn't matter the social or economic status. An honest person or an honest man cannot love evil, for it opposes honesty. So we can be honest, and we need to be honest if we want to be a good example to those around us, whether we are persons of faith or not. Psalms 1:1-3 says, "Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the path of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law he meditates day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by rivers of water, that brings forth its fruit in season, whose leaf also shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper." Do you want to be a successful person? Be honest inside and out, knowing that what you do is a witness to those around you, and that they will be able to trust you. And when people trust you, you become successful. Maybe you may not be the richest man in the world. You may not have everything that, say, Bill Gates or even Elon Musk or any of these billionaires that you see nowadays. You may not have that fancy Tesla electric car or whatever it is that your heart desires. But this you'll have is satisfaction and peace within yourself, knowing that what you do is advancing not just yourself but others around you and bringing peace to them. Third, and this is for us who believe in Jesus Christ, it's to be totally devoted to God. This characteristic is the most significant one that marks a successful man. Read all of Job and you will find that he did not blame God, but called for him to rescue him. If you've read it, I don't know, sometimes reading the book of Job is a little bit boring because there's this long dissertations and things in there. But when you really study what Job says, he doesn't blame God for anything that happens to him. No matter, he lost his family, his children were killed, he lost his possessions, all of them, his house, his land, his animals, everything else. And the only thing that he was left was a wife that says, "Why don't you just give up and die?" So I don't know that little quote about it, behind every successful man is a woman. Sometimes there isn't. But as you read through, you discover that Job called upon God to save him. Not to blame him, but to save him. All his words from his friends were rebuke. They kept saying, "Repent because you sinned. That's why this calamity fell upon you." And Job went back to them. He says, "Look, I've studied everything. I checked it all out. And I don't see where I sin." And then he started to rebuke his friends, saying that it's God who judges and not them. All his words to his friends, even though some were rebukes, all pointed to the sovereignty of God. He was totally devoted to God. Job would not ease his suffering by denying him. He saw God as his only chance of survival. There's another character, David. As bad as a character as he may have been, God said, "Here is a man who is after my own heart." Isn't that something? What do you know about David? The biggest story we know about David is David and Goliath. And David and Bathsheba. He sinned with Bathsheba. It was the ultimate sin. A lot of us today, if something like that happened, we would condemn him and we'd never forgive him. He took a woman that wasn't his, and to cover up his sin, he had her husband killed. What a story. The movies should have been just filled with all of this kind of stuff. The Bible should be one of the biggest what do they call them, screenplays ever, because there's so many stories of intrigue and everything you wanted. Violence, sex, what else? You know, everything that you want that people seem to go after is in there. And yet David called upon God in his times of troubles. He repented. And he continued to give God glory no matter how much punishment God placed on him for his sins. David, when he took Bathsheba, God took the little child that resulted from that pregnancy. And David pleaded. But when the child died, David surrendered himself to God and said, "It's your will, God, and not mine." And he gave him all the glory, even though the tragedy was there. The disciples were devoted to God, giving up their homes, families, and very lives to follow Jesus. Sure, they waffled at the Garden of Gethsemane, but after that, they developed the church, you and I, and that they gave everything up. Their jobs, their security. How much would you give up for God? Would you give up your livelihood? Would you give up your home, your cars, your TV sets? How much would you give up? Would you give your life?